And I truly believe that all of this push is negatively impacting the mental well-being of students. And I wanted to ask you about that because I have a perception that in your school you don't do SEL, social emotional learning surveys in classes where you ask the students to get inside their heads and divulge their innermost feelings on a regular basis, never mind daily or hourly, or in every academic subject. And yet that is the rage in the United States. And I wanted to ask you, as a seasoned educator who is achieving wonderful things with the very population they claim needs this so much over here, what do you have to say to parents and educators here about this obsession with mental health, and the children can't learn until we first address the presumed mental health problems they have?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, mental health is something to take seriously, and there are situations where children are suffering from those mental health issues where they need support. But what you don't want to do is encourage a space where this is all they're talking about. I would say the same thing when it comes to, say, racism, when it comes to poverty. If you're constantly encouraging the children to feel that the world is against them, that they're going to fail either because of their mental health or because of their race or because of their class, then they are going to internalize that, and they're going to have a very hard time concentrating on their math and their English. And that's the stuff that we should be doing most at school. Now, that doesn't mean that obviously if a child is having an issue, that you don't take him to the side, give him the support that he needs, have the chat, see whether or not you need to involve a mentor, outside agencies, and so on. That obviously needs to happen. But you do not want en masse to be coming to them and saying, here are all these issues, here is all, you know. I think that's really I think that's very undermining. You do want to let them know that if they're having trouble, to come and talk to you individually,
Of
to
course.
have that, but you don't want to sort of whip them up into a frenzy. And I do think that that happens too much, where there's a misjudgment, really, from the point of view of the school. If you're doing assembly after assembly on how racist the world is, that does not have a positive impact on your ethnic minority kids. Those kids then give up. Those kids think, well, everyone hates me. They're unable to build relationships with their white teachers. So, and it's the same. I would say it's the same thing around mental health, really. That they then are just thinking about that all the time.
Right.
And what you want to do is address the issues of mental health with trying to teach them how to be resilient, teaching them how to be stoical, teaching them how to persevere through difficulties. And when you do that and you do it successfully, children learn how to manage mental health issues. Now, obviously, there are situations where they're unable to do so, and you need to give the correct support for that. And the child needs to know that they're able to come and talk to you and tell you that. That is important. But yes, I would disagree with the situation that you described.
Right. But I think what you're describing is support for individuals. So there's a difference between addressing something as it comes up in context with the individual, privately with the tiers of support that are appropriate for the situation. So for example, if you have a child who's struggling with reading and that may be causing them some upset, but it's because their reading skills behind, that's a tier 1 support. They may need tutoring, more teaching, extra help. If they are saying, I have some problems with my friends and I don't know how to interact with my friends, maybe that's a tier 2 counseling kind of a support. And if they come to you and say, my parents are constantly fighting and I live in a danger zone where it's chaos constantly, that's a tier 3 support with social services.
Yes.
Unfortunately, what we are seeing in the United States is they are going straight to tier 3. They're putting the tier 3 support professionals who are not trained educators into the classroom and having them teach lessons on things like how to treat other people, what to think about societal problems, how to define their identity, how to deal with, all en masse. And I truly believe that they are creating problems, not just exacerbating existing ones, but taking otherwise healthy children who come to school to learn and letting them believe that they cannot learn unless and until they incorporate all these other lessons, which of course we all know is a lie, because once you incorporate these lessons of cognitive distortion, it's harder to learn. As you said, you become preoccupied with your relationships, preoccupied with your emotions.
Yes.
And especially with preteens, they're predisposed to be preoccupied with those things anyway.
Yes,
I-
exactly. Like I say, you want to be teaching them instead resilience and perseverance and self-control and so on, so that they're able to deal with the normal emotions of a teenager.
Right.
And because being a teenager is hard, um, and you need to support them with that. And I'm not sure that the way in which they're approaching it, the way you're saying, is very supportive.
Right.
Um,
And it is the way they're doing it. Like, so for example, in our country, we have committed over $122 billion purely to this issue in the last year alone. And with what has been done with it is the hiring of massive numbers of social workers to place in the school. The next move is to put health centers and counseling centers in the schools. They're calling it the community school model. And so then, what I do is I look at what works, as I told you the last time we met, and I look at schools like yours, and I think, well, why are people closing their I'm not looking at what works. I'm not going to look at what's actually working for the population we claim to want to help.
I know. Well, worse
I'm
than that,
putting a blinder on.
it's worse than that. They then claim that we're destroying their lives because we have a misattributed quote to Churchill on the wall.